So the first exercise that we're going to do this morning with Miss Daisy is going to be trying to teach her recognition of the leash pressure. Now for her case here, we're going to start off out in the field because her set of circumstances are a little bit different. You can kind of tell here she's already shaking, a little bit afraid, and she usually tries to run back home, which is a good trait. If she has to kind of run anywhere out of fear, running back home is good, but we also want her to be able to control those fears and not let them control her, and better yet, be able to focus on us when she's overwhelmed as opposed to just automatically doing something. The reason why we're starting out here in a field is because we want to try to protect her paws. If she is constantly pulling, if she is constantly pulling on the surface of the concrete or the asphalt, it can tear up the bottom of her feet. So we want to try to prevent any injuries. And on that note too, have a little bit of a bungee cord, as well as having her on a longer lead. The reason why I have her on a longer lead is because I want her to actually have some noticeable time between her movements and when that leash pressure actually hits. With a much shorter leash, like a regular 4 or 6 foot leash, that time is going to be almost near instant because she'll start running right away at the end of that leash. Yeah. And the goal here, hopefully before the rain comes in, is we want her to start going back home like she usually would, and recognizing that the leash is what's holding her back. And the moment that we're looking for is when she kind of gives up, even though she is terrified and just wants to go home. What we're looking for is that moment when she gives up and checks back on us and wonders why the leash is not letting her move forward. And then we're gonna go ahead and give her some praise, and we're gonna try to allow her to move back towards home. So this way she learns that if she pays attention to us as opposed to just continuously pulling, she'll get what she wants faster, which is to go home. Later on, we're gonna develop this concept into those leash boundaries, like with other pups, and her kind of recognizing that leash pressure and being able to redirect. But especially at first, because she's so fearful, it's gonna be a lot harder and it's gonna take a lot longer. We're not gonna use the magic of video editing and YouTube for this one, just so that way her parents and anybody else can see just how long this process can take and what we're looking for with this. Okay? We're gonna wanna try to make it as comfortable for her as possible. We brought some treats along if she's able to get in. Good girl. If she's able to get them, and then able to just redirect back to us. Oh, good girl. There we go. Good girl. Hi. Daisy. No. Not interested in those. Tried getting the puppy treats for her. Had the beef liver yesterday, so might have to get some more of those for her. Good girl. All right, so now we're gonna start going. And there's that leash pressure, right? Good thing is she's not continuing to pull. Yes, good girl. Go and pee-pee. Good potty. Good girl. Okay, we'll start going again. There's that leash pressure. Yes, good girl. Good job. Good girl. Now we move again together. Oh, good. Good girl. Good job. Now her focusing and having to slow down her pace, we're gonna have to practice over time, but at least now she's not continuously pulling to get to where she wants to go. We're gonna let her be distracted by certain smells and things. Good. And she's just learning to make progress on a nice loose leash. Mm-hmm. Okay. You can see when she starts to get a little bit more pulley or frantic, good girl, it's gonna get a lot harder for her to kind of check back in. Yes, this way. Good girl. All right, I'll go with you. Come on. Gotta be careful for this. Luckily, she didn't fall in it. Good girl. Right, so when she starts panicking and pulling to get to where she wants to go, this is when she doesn't get to make any progress. We want her to learn that once there's pressure on the leash, the harder that she tries to push through, the more she's not going to make any progress. And the only way to make progress towards whatever direction she wants to go, back home, out that way, or anything that she's interested in. Good girl. I know, I'm coming. Right? She has to check back in with us. We'll go together until we run out of leash. Good girl. Good, wait. Oh, almost. Right? Good. So it's a very, very simple and basic concept, but this can be really challenging, especially on a shorter leash at first, just to get her to be able to walk nicely with us. Good girl, there you go. Right? Yes, good girl. We've practiced this a little bit yesterday evening. Good girl. And she's already kind of understanding the idea. Sometimes it's really hard for them to focus and actually understand the lesson. So that's where just consistency is going to be key, right? Trying to quickly give her that positive affirmation as soon as she recognizes and looks back to me, right? If she's not pulling, I can actually eat up some of this leash so we can start going again. And then when she does start pulling, we stop. Good girl. Good job. I'd like her to come back to me when she feels the pressure as opposed to just stopping and sitting, because sometimes that can develop the issue, good girl, that some pups have when they just kind of run to the end of the leash and they stop and sit, and then they run to the end of the leash and they stop and sit. Right? So I'm gonna try to actually add some pressure this way. Daisy. Oh, good girl. Good job. Good girl. That's a good girl. All right, you ready? Let's go together. There you go. And there she goes. Oh, good. There we go. Distractions on the ground in this case is actually pretty beneficial for her. Gives her something else to think about as opposed to just what she was afraid of with the sound and trying to get home. So this is good. Oh, going potty. Good girl. I'm gonna pause real quick. Okay. Good girl. So once again, trying to walk together. Leash is nice and loose. She gets to make progress. And then when that leash gets tight, she has to redirect back to us. She's doing really good. Part of what helps right now is that nothing like a sudden sound has really startled her. Good girl, very good, right? Good girl, that was even better. She hit the end of the leash, she looked back, started walking back this way. Good girl, very good, good. Paying more attention to me, good. So that's gonna be the ultimate goal, is to be able to get her to focus when prompted, either with her name or when we add the leash pressure on our own. Good girl. And then maintaining focus, either when prompted or preferably all on her own accord. All right, she's doing really good so far. Okay, so now I'm gonna take the lead and try to get her to follow me. Come. Oh, good girl, good job. Good. Very good. And once again. Good. Good. Good girl. Gonna have to be a little bit careful not to get tangled up in the trees and the shrubs there. So we're just gonna start walking back this way. Good girl. Yeah, she might hit the end of the leash here. Good. Yes, good girl. Good weight. Oh, are you sleepy? Very good. And hopefully you can see why we're starting this exercise on a longer leash first, because if she only got to go 4 to 6 feet before the leash pressure hits, we wouldn't get to make it very far. And it would be good later on to have more of that leash pressure activating to kind of micromanage her, but it would happen so often that we wouldn't have enough time when the leash is loose to kind of make when the leash is tight impactful, right? So that dead period, good girl, actually helps us. If the leash was always tight, it'd be a lot harder, good girl, to recognize, when it gets tight. Whereas if the leash is mostly loose, good girl, and then suddenly it gets tight when you're trying to go somewhere, then that's definitely a lot more recognizable for her. Good girl. Good girl. Also, something that really helps during the early parts of this kind of walking exercise is walking backwards and just maintaining eye contact on her. Good girl. Because when we're in front of her, it's also easier, of course, for her to focus on us, as opposed to being behind, and then she only really recognizes when she's too far away just by that leash pressure. Right, so here we go. Oh, good girl, good job. Good girl. Good, now I'll walk with her. Slowly getting to walk together where she wants to go. But the main goal is to just make progress when the leash is loose. And then when the leash is tight, make sure that she doesn't keep trying to pull, but instead recognizes that leash pressure and then redirects her focus back to us. Oh, good girl. Okay. Good girl. She's actually checking back in and waiting for us to catch up, which is good. I'm gonna try to take her back into the grass so that way she doesn't hurt her paws if she starts pulling. Good girl. Good girl. There you go. Now she's starting to check back in on us even without hitting the end of the leash, which is really good. Luckily, the weather is pretty cool out right now with a little bit of wind and no sun. I want to try to get as much practice with her outside here before the rain happens and before it gets too hot out again. So what we'll probably do is continue walking around maybe for another 10-15 minutes, kind of make it like a half-hour session. Give her a little break, walk around with the other pups, get them some practice, and then take her back out again. Because I feel like an hour-long walking session for her in the beginning is going to be a little bit too much. Don't want her to get too tired too. Okay, so we're hitting the end of the leash. Yes, good girl, this way. Very good. Good girl. You're doing so good. You want to tell your mom you say hi? Oh, she hears the music now. Good girl. Oh, yeah. She's doing really good, though, for the first session.